Welcome to the NJC's 10-minute takeaways. I'm Tom Stenson, audit trainer and head of training for the NJC, and today I'm joined by fellow committee member Andy Lloyd from Lloyd's Driver Training. Andy is an instructor trainer from Portsmouth. Thank you very much for joining us, Andy.
You're welcome, Tom. Thank you for having me on.
In today's topic, we are going to be talking about the importance of body language, and our 10 minutes starts now. So, Andy, for you, why is kind of body language so important for us as instructors or instructor trainers?
I think too many people, newly qualified ADIs and PDIs, I think they focus too much on fault finding. So they're trying to identify those faults, and they're not really aware of their pupils' body languages, and they miss those fundamental parts really. And when I've questioned and sort of asked people this, I think it relates to a lot of it is where they read so much topics about the part three, because they're working towards their part threes on did you identify the fault? What did we do with that fault? Did we analyze it? Did we pull them all out of conversation? Did that fault warrant change in the lesson plan? And that's all they're focusing on, those faults. But what they're missing is a lot of the people's body languages, and even the words they're saying. So with an experienced, not an experienced body language expert, but if you're watching their body language, we should be really picking up those faults before they happen. So, for instance, where they move in their head. So if they're approaching a junction and they're moving their heads, or they're not moving their heads, they're only focused on one kind of thing. We know that those faults are going to happen. But a lot of newly PDIs qualified, they just focus on waiting for the fault to happen. And then, so they're not watching their body language. And it's the normal things, is where are they sitting? Where are they holding the wheel? Where are they looking? Are they sweaty? Are they getting a bit clammy? Are they shutting up? Are they not looking your way when you're trying to ask them a few things, or you're trying to ask those sort of leading questions, or the whys, the what ifs, and what we're going to do, how we're going to do it? They sort of shut down a little bit. So all those that we're missing on that body language as a structure, and then it's all we're trying to do then is we're just firefighting those faults all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas if we could get to learn more about body language, then we could identify a lot that before all those faults are happening. So then we can say to them, why are your shoulder hunching up? Why are you holding the wheel so tight? Why are you not looking the direction you're supposed to be looking? Rather than all the coaching questions of, well, okay, so tell me what we're going to do before we reach the red car. Tell me what we're going to do about this. So instead of those coaching leading questions, then we should be focusing on, hold on a minute, why are they holding on tighter than they normally do? Why are their shoulders hunching up? Why they're not talking to me? Why they're not looking at me? If we can identify that, then that should really, to me, in my experience, that should be your leading questions, not your coaching questions of what are we going to do before we get the red car. It should be, how are they feeling? So then we should bring in all the thoughts and feelings into their body language. So
And
yep.
sorry, Andy, do you find that sometimes that this may stem from the trainees or the instructors are generally just not watching the learner at the correct time anyway?
Yep, definitely. So what they're doing is and I know is they're watching them at the wrong time. So they might be giving them the question, and then watching them later on instead of starting watching them and then asking them the question, because then you can see their body language before you ask the question, and then after you've asked the question to exactly where they're changing their body language, so before and after. A lot of people fall down, whereas they ask the question, then they start looking. So they can't see that difference in body language because they don't see the change in the body language. And that's a big problem as well, is where exactly what you just said is starting to get to learn to look at them before the questions come up. And it's the same where they will identify, oh, I see you didn't check the mirror then, but they only look in the mirror or look at their face when they told them a direction or something to do, not before. So they're not seeing those body language changes because they're leaving it too late.
And
Uh,
I think it is such an important thing because we generally as humans, when we talk to someone, we look at them, don't we?
yeah.
If we're stood in any normal environment, the majority of people will look. I've got you on my screen here, and I'm looking at you as I'm talking to you. But yet we get the instructors in the car, and that seems to almost go out the window, excuse the pun. So if you could give some advice then to trainees or instructors that are listening, what are the things that you try and look for in body language when you're with a learner, or how would you give that information to a trainee?
So what I would part with mine is what I do. I notice their body language from the very first time they sit in the car with me. Even on the way to the training area or training route, whatever you want to call it, I can see what their body language is even before they sit into the driver's seat. And then when they sit in the driver's seat, then I can see how their body language changes, even on the first few minutes, the first lesson. So then when we start the coaching side of it, I already know how their body language is changing right through. And what a lot of people don't focus on is the people's eyes.
Yeah.
I learn a lot from where they're looking, not just turning the heads. You know yourself, Tom, people will say, oh, well, my last instructor said that I've got to emphasize the movement of my head, you know? I can see a lot in their eyes. You can see fear in their eyes.
Mm,
You can see if their eye movement is too much. So if the eye movement is too much, they started to panic. They start to get anxiety because they're not focusing. Why are they not focusing? So if I see a pupil's eyes going all over the place, that's the conversation I need with them,
mm,
not talking about what we're going to do on approach to the red car. It's that is the focus, and even in the eyes. Never mind all the big head movements. It's that eyes tells a lot of stories. So that's where I would focus as well. Is when they're looking at them, don't just look at the person itself. There used to be a saying where you can see a people's souls through their eyes. The
yeah.
eyes says a lot, to especially young people, especially people who are neurodivergent. They tell a lot with their eyes.
Mm,
Some of them would be they don't want to speak to you, or they're anxious, or they're non-verbal. You can tell a lot by their eyes. So the one fundamental part I would say to a newly qualified PDI, notice the body language from the first ever lesson and see how their body language progresses, and then focus a lot on their eye movements. And that, to me personally, in my experience, that tells me a lot just in their eye movement. So that's where I would start. And then as you go along, you can see where they sit in, what their sitting position is. Are they slapping down in their seat a little bit more? Are they relaxed on the wheel a little bit more? Are they turning their heads a little bit more? Are they engaging in more conversation with you? All that is a massive learning opportunity for them. I taught a non-verbal, and people used to say to me, but how did you know that learning took place? Well, it's quite easy. It's
mm.
by their actions. It's by where they're looking. It's about their road positioning, their seating position. That's where I know learning's taking place. I don't have to ask them all the questions because they can show me by all that body language
Yeah.
and what they do within that structure of it.
And the body can give away so much, can't it? I've been sat in the back of vehicles before observing lessons, and I can tell that the learner in front is a little bit anxious because you can see what the shoulders are like, or I can see the white knuckles on the steering wheel, and I'm thinking, okay, we probably need to be addressing this about now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the way they focus on the road, because when they're anxious and nervous, they will just peer straight on our road like a horse with blinkers on. They will not move their head. And the fact is they're not moving their head means they're not aware of their surroundings. And that is a big sort of you can pick up straight away on their fear and their anxiety because they're almost, like you said, the white knuckles, they're
Yeah.
staring in front of them. They're not aware of anything around them. That's what we as driving instructors should be focusing on. Not all the deep Q&A all the time. People get confused. Oh, but I've got a coach. I got a coach. I got a coach. Well, what about your people? They're showing signs of fear, anxiety, and you're not worried about that. You're not focusing on that. You're focusing on, I have to ask this question. Oh, somebody said I got to dig deeper. Hold on a minute. Yeah. Why are you digging deeper when you're just losing that pupil
Mm.
completely in their body language?
And although I'd still class this as body language, I think the other one that goes sort of missed a little bit is hearing the learner breathe or not breathe. You know, I've heard before we've approached a roundabout and then we've done this roundabout and all of a sudden the learner goes because they've been holding their breath that time.
Yep.
And this is all this information that we kind of get from our learners. But as you say, it's opening it up to recognize it's not just looking at what they're doing, it's how they're doing it.
Yep, exactly. And it's the same again, if they're holding their breath, then that's even worse for their anxiety and their stress. Because if they're stressed and they start holding their breath, they're not taking enough oxygen in, so it just spirals then. And that's where things starts going wrong. But then the PDI, the ADI, or whatever you call them, it's got that pupil in them, they are just focusing on that fault.
Yeah.
Not that the pupil's not breathing and anxiety is getting worse and worse and worse, or their stress is getting worse and worse and worse.
So hopefully what we're saying is prioritize your learner, don't prioritize the fault.
Perfect.
Andy, that is the end of our 10 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you can come back for another episode.
Yep, thank you very much, Tom. Hopefully I'll catch you soon.
Fantastic. Those who've been listening, please remember to like and subscribe.